Hey team. Hello.
Hello.
Let me see what's going on with my video.
Hello. Sorry, guys. I think I was in the wrong meeting. I clicked the I clicked the whatever. Sorry, the ambassador. No, it's the outreach committee call, which is running at the same time.
No worries, no worries. I think that Ishan is also like waiting to join. Let me see. For some reason, my Slack in my computer is not working. It's completely broken. Is it only me?
Okay, so then it's not only me then.
That's good.
Because I was trying to open up Slack to communicate with you, but I couldn't get straight into it. So
yeah,
we're on the same page.
Yeah, I think that that's like it's kind of like down here, like maybe in Europe or something, because. But that's weird because I guess that it's not working on my VPN, but it's working on my phone. Weird. So I have no idea what's going on.
It's working for me. I just sent Ishan the link to the Zoom call. Let's
Thanks.
see.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, there were like 2,000 reports in the last hour that Slack is down. But I think this is kind of like in London. Where is it? Let me see. Yeah, mostly. Yeah. Interesting. Anyways, how is everyone doing?
Yeah, I'm doing well, thanks. And you?
Good. Recovered. So hopefully.
That's great.
We can start. We can start planning to travel to some conferences and stuff.
So let me share. Screen. All right, so I have some agenda for today. Let's feel free to add to it if I missed anything. Shall we get started? What do you think?
Let's do it.
All right, so today is not the 8th, it's the 22nd. So welcome to the vocabulary discussion meeting notes or CD events working group. We should rename it. Anyways, it's still relevant vocabulary discussion as well. Feel free to add yourself to the participant list if you'd like to. Right. In terms of announcements, there are a couple of forms out there. One is for the event at KubeCon and one for the event at CityCon. And we got a few answers, but yeah, if you haven't answered to those yet, please do, so that we can know if you're interested in joining and get a better idea how to apply for those. I saw your message, Maurice, about Knative Day Zero event.
Yeah.
So Kara is out this week, but it's something that we need to discuss with her. I don't think there is any fixed day yet for the, and I usually there are 2 days of Day Zero events or like co-located events. So maybe it's possible to avoid like overlapping, but I know there are a lot of them, so it's always difficult to like, yeah.
Yeah, my first impression was that like CD events on itself, I mean, even if it sounds like interesting, I don't know if like we can do like a full day of it. That's why maybe kind of like joining forces with some other things that might be related might make sense, because I'm pretty sure that people like on the Canadian eventing side, they will probably be interested in in CD events, and the same thing with in the other way around, right? Like people using CD events, they might be also thinking about Canadian eventing for routing those events. But
right.
Yeah, I just thought about like raising kind of like the concern, and then just whatever works, I'm happy with.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, yeah, last time we discussed it, I think Tracy was pushing for getting the full event because I think she's very enthusiastic in, getting the community moving, and that's great. I was a bit concerned about filling the agenda for one day. I think that's why I was thinking maybe we could do like half a day talks, like having a keynote and having some people bringing stories about events or using events in CI/CD. They're not going to probably going to be about using CD events because it's just too new. And I think there's people they CD events or implementing CD events, but yeah, we would need to find speakers. But I guess we could do. And the other half a day would be more like we could do like implementing CD events for project X or working with the community X to implement an adapter or CD events in that project, or doing like design work on the spec or on the SDKs, hands-on, all those kind of things.
Makes sense.
So I think we could fill the day, but yeah, we need to have also enough people around. Let me check. I can open the.
So maybe I was wrong, but I thought that the day was actually, it's the only event that CDF at all is having during KubeCon Europe, right?
There is also like CDCon, right?
There is also CDCon one, yes.
Yeah, but in KubeCon Europe, so I think it was this like CDF, so that's why Tracy was pushing for the big room, because I was also buffed by having a 100-person room. It was either 50 or 100-person room, but she was pushing for the 100-person room, and I assume that would be the reason why was for that it was not only seed events but the whole of CDF.
Well, it's the only event. It's the only event organized by CDF. But I don't know of any other content that is not CDF planned for that. But yeah, so we can ask Kara if there is any plan for any other kind of content. But my understanding is that, yeah, it would be basically dedicated to CD events. Yeah, but because that's why she even asked us, the CD events community, to pick like for a title for the event and a description and an abstract so that they can put it on the event page and so forth.
But then it's it's the only event that we have from CDF, so that's why, just to be aware of that one.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Are you aware of any other group within the CDF that is looking to have a co-located
event? No, it was
event?
just that it was only, I mean, if it's the only event, then we might have more people from other parts of CDF that's joining into the to the thing. But yeah, it's meant for seed events, but as it's the only one, then other CDF people might join in.
Yeah, I wonder if it makes sense to reach out maybe to the SIG interoperability and the new SIG supply chain folks as well, to see if they're interested in participating as well.
Yeah.
Or what do you guys think?
Sounds more like an organization thing, right? And also, like, are these groups planning to participate from that, like from the CD events day at KubeCon? It's like CD events day at KubeCon, or is more like CD day at KubeCon?
Yeah, I mean, it would make sense to get people, like if you have people from different projects that are interested in implementing CD events in the project. That would be great, for instance. like people from Tecton, people from Jenkins, or Spinnaker also. But we may also have people from projects that are not CDF projects but want to implement CD events, like Knative, Captain, and so forth. So
we can think of it to next time, maybe on Monday. So we can, I don't know if you want to focus more on the technical side on this one.
yeah, that's a fair point. But the only thing I would say, I mean, if you think of a group or a community that would be interested in participating, feel free to share the link to this Google form. Reach out to folks and let them know that this event, we are trying to build this event, so that is going to happen, so that we can get more people involved.
Yep, makes sense.
All right, I would say then let's move on. So in terms of issues to discuss, the first one is the service published.
Yeah, I added an extra comment. I'm happy with whatever we decide here, but I mean, you added another one that I didn't read. Good stuff. You're too fast, my friend.
Yeah, so basically,
yeah.
The discussion is about adding a CD service published with a bit of back and forth regarding whether it's generic enough. And I think we agree with Marisa that the concept can be generalized. So what we have, one of the subjects that we have is service, but it's not necessarily a Kubernetes service. It's in general an application that is deployed. And today we have a few events, what do we call predicate? We call them now, I think. Yes, predicates, which are deployed, upgraded, rolled back, and removed. And the proposal is to add a published one, and the published one would represent when the service becomes accessible from outside kind of the private context where it's deployed. Like it could be a Kubernetes cluster, but it could be also some kind of whatever context. So it kind of gets a public IP address or some publicly available way of being contacted.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I think that works for me.
Quick question about like the shape of the events now, like dev.cd events. Is that something that we have reflected into the SDK?
Not yet.
Should we do that now?
Yes. Yes, but we need to also bring the SDK into the CD events. Into the CD events GitHub organization. I think I have an issue. Is it here? No, that's on the, sorry. So in this issue here, DNS domain for CD events. So we have the domain provisioned, the website is up, documentation updated, but we need to update the SDK. Is the
perfect
bit that is missing.
Should we? Yeah, I think that. So, how do you think that we should do it? Should we make that change before moving the SDK, or should we do it like after?
Either way, whatever is most effective for the people doing the actual change, I don't mind. I think it's, I suppose it's going to be like search and replace or something on the code, hopefully. So if it helps you to do the change there in the current location so that you can continue working on the POC and then we do the move afterwards, it works for me. Yeah.
Yeah, if we are going to make the change there in the current repository, let's create an issue there, like maybe linking to this issue. And I know that Ishan is working on this, so I'm pretty sure that we can include that change as part of like including kind of like the new event, like the published one. So
yeah,
we can
sure. I mean,
we can
like
create separate
I
pull
can add
requests,
that.
of course.
Yeah, I can modify the existing pull request.
Yep, that sounds great. Because at the end of the day, what we want to do is like we want to move forward with the POCs, and I think
Right.
that if you, Andrea, if you can guide us on the things that you're planning to do with the SDKs and also with the spec in the kind of like in the new org, I think that we can definitely help there as well, right? Like we can start helping actively there, because I think that that's also part of getting the POCs kind of like up and running.
Great. Okay, so cool. So just this one. Yeah. Do you want me to create the issue, or can you?
I mean, if you can create the issue and list the things that you think that we need to change before moving it, I think that that will be great. Probably because you have more context than myself right now.
Right. I think for now, yeah. So there is the the event type for sure, and the rest of the thing I'm working on, writing the spec, how it will look like in the new format, but it's still in progress. So I think once it's finished, hopefully it's not too far away in the future, then we can change the SDK as well.
Makes sense.
But hopefully the API of the SDK, I mean, from consumer side should not be affected too much. So I think it's mainly the way that the events are serialized and into cloud events. I think that's going to change. I mean, we might need to pull in some new information if we set up things like links at some point. But yeah, let's do that step by step.
Perfect. Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay. So on the published, sorry, where is it? On this issue, the service published, the only question I had was whether we want to make to have a large variety of predicates, or whether we should have just a limited number, like created, updated, removed, and then use a different field for specifying further what kind of update. So the only concern that I have is that if we have like huge number of events, so large number of predicates, a large number of events, then if you want to write a filter, or if you want to do some logic around it, then you have a large number of events to manage, or larger number. But yeah, I'm not entirely sure. Yeah,
my gut feeling tells me that we should keep kind of like the number of events like smaller, as you pointed out in a different comment, right? I think that if we start adding loads of events, lots of event definitions, it's going to become very unmanageable, at least at the beginning. And I think that the thing that you're doing of limiting, kind of like adding events only when we kind of like have a real reason and a justified reason to add it, because maybe we need it somewhere, or like a use case really deserves that kind of like new event type. That's the only reason why I would add events nowadays. But yeah, I mean, as soon as kind of like we can go through that, like proposing a new event and then just having a discussion and then adding it, I think it's okay how we have it structured nowadays. Subject and predicate sounds, in this case, it's like subject is like the service, and then kind of like what happened with that service, right? In this case, like updated or published.
Yeah. Yeah. So what my question was, could it be like could we include the published and other changes to the service in one single event called update, and that as like a subfield that specify what kind of update, or do we want it to be separate event types? You know?
Yes. Yeah.
I don't have really a strong opinion one way or the other. I wanted to raise the question and see what people thought about it. But I mean, we can also continue like this for now, and at the published event, and then change it. Maybe what I can do, I can create a separate discussion for this.
Yeah.
See if people can comment on it.
Yeah, I really want to unblock Ishan with that published one, because I think that it's worth for the use case that we're trying to represent. I think that we can reevaluate that later on, right? Like if we need, yeah, I totally get what you mean now. Like, yeah, something as part of the update. I think that for now, like, let's keep it separated, and then we can just review that. Because update in this case, it's super generic. So basically, yeah.
Yeah,
okay, yeah, that's a good point. Let's create a separate discussion for that.
Yeah, it's just I thought if I don't care, for instance, about any updates on services, I can just, you know, not capture all the updates. But if there are like 5 different kind of updates, depending on how it is updated, then I need to handle all 5 kinds, or some kind of yeah, way to filter them out. But yeah, okay, let's do like this. Anyways, I think we also have other events like this, and maybe we can have this discussion for 0.2 version 0.2 if we decide to restructure this or not. Okay, I'll create a separate issue then. Okay, let's try to.
So my 2 cents to the discussion, the comment is, if we have several events, now we have deployed and upgraded, but if we have published, then we also need to be aware and describe to the users when you should use publish and when you should use deployed. So it's pretty clear for them.
Yeah,
absolutely. That's a very good point, Matthias. Thanks. Okay, but we can say that we agree on published. Needs to be clearly documented when to use which event type, and yeah. Okay, sounds good. Yeah, I totally agree with you with the documentation point. I think right now it's we only have a little bit of text, but we should, you know, have some examples and yeah, clear discussion about when to use which event, and maybe examples from different platforms or situations.
That's part of the spec, right? Defining the semantics of each event, right? More than it's not just documentation. It's okay. So it needs to be specific enough for the specification to be clear.
Because I guess you wanna, if you read the specification and you see published and deployed, okay, when am I supposed to use published? When am I supposed to use deployed? Can I use them in conjunction with each other and so on? So it's those type of questions that will pop up for a new reader. So that's why we need to be very clear on when to use when.
Yeah, and they popped up for me even when I was implementing the initial POC, and I think for you, we're discussing which event should we use? Oh, what is this field? Is it like meant to be these or that? So yeah.
That's why I'm pushing really hard for all these POCs, because they're like the right questions start to pop up, and you clearly recognize when you're implementing kind of like a new integration, like, oh, I wish that this event existed, because for this use case it makes a lot of sense. So hopefully these kind of like initiatives are going to bring more clarity and help us to refine the spec.
Cool. All All right, moving on to the next one I wanted to bring up is this using source in CD events. Because yeah, I was trying to write the more documentation on the specs, exactly how do we use the different fields and so forth. And one is the source, which in Cloud Events is marked as a URI reference. And the main thing is with the source is that it basically gives you a namespace to make sure that the event ID is unique globally, right? So you make sure that the source plus ID is globally unique. And well, as long as you use UUIDs for event IDs, that's probably already quite globally unique, but adding the source in front helps. But yeah, the way it is implemented, for instance, in Tecton, when sending CD events, is that for source, it sets this whole string like APIs, Tecton, v1 beta namespaces, blah, 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 down to the resource. But as I was writing the spec, I was thinking that maybe this is not entirely correct because the resource, their ID looks more like the subject. So then I was thinking maybe we should do something like this, like the source should be like simply tecton.dev, and the subject would be then the actual resource, which is going to be, I don't know, if something is happening to it, it's running or, okay, whatever. But yeah, so the problem I have, and I also asked this question in the Slack for Cloud Events, is that the source is supposed to be a URI ref, but it should identify at the end a source of events, which is likely to be a platform like a Jenkins or a Tecton or my testing Tecton or my production Tecton or something like that. And I don't know how to express this using a URI. So we could invent something like the option that I have down below, like tecton.dev/tecton/footing, or I could have like Jenkins/staging or Captain/my fancy version of Captain. But yeah, it's not clear to me, and I think we should have a recommendation on how to structure sources in the spec. But I wanted to see if, well, at least bring attention to this, because maybe I don't know if you've seen this. Probably you have not seen this issue before, so maybe, but at least you can have a look at it, and maybe we can discuss it offline, or if you have some comments now, let me know.
I think that looks really interesting. So basically, this is whoever is producing the cloud event should be setting up kind of like the source, right? And what we are trying to define here is how do we define the source for the producers in this case, right?
Yeah.
But that's kind of like a combination between subject and well, subject is the entity, right?
Yes, exactly. So the subject, the way we set it up in Tecton today, it's the subject is there in the source, but I think that's something that we need to change actually, because I think that's wrong. And if you see the first option, that there is an overlap between subject and source. So I think the second option is closer to what it should be, but the source there might be not very interesting to have, like the website of Tecton.
Yeah, yeah. What I think that the problem kind of like with the example itself, maybe kind of like it's like an example thing, because in this case, like Tecton is running a task, right? And the subject in this case, like this, your suggestion is that the task, like in this case, the task reference is the subject. So basically you are saying that the one who is producing this event is not Tecton, it's actually the task that is run by Tecton in this case, right?
Yes, but that's not actually, I mean, the event is produced by the Tecton controller.
By the controller.
Right.
Okay.
So.
I think that's good. So basically then kind of like why the source, can the source be the controller itself who is producing the event?
Yes, it can be, but how do you express a reference to the controller in a URI reference format?
That's true, right? Because it doesn't have a service, right?
Yeah, it could be the Kubernetes service. I mean, we could say that this is a Kubernetes
But
service.
yeah,
use the
but
service.
the controller probably will not have a service, right? Because it doesn't have any need for it. Nobody's interacting with the controller.
Right.
And so it kind of
But
sucks. Yeah.
It has a deployment, so you could use the deployment or
The deployment name, yeah, something like that.
deployment
Yeah.
name or something like that. At the end of the day, I think from a consumer point of view, you only need to have some kind of label that lets you identify which events are coming from the same type of source. If you want to group them, like you're visualizing the pipeline, for instance, you want to know, okay, these share the same source, so I need to have a label that I can group them, can use to group them, so I can say, okay, all these events come from this source, or yeah, some kind of, if I say, oh, I don't really care about events from Tecton because I don't like Tecton, and so I just filter everything that comes from source Tecton, for instance, and that should be in the header so that I can take this decision without, going to look into the body and.
Makes sense.
All right.
I guess
Yeah.
that the source is also supposed to be as unique. So if you have two different sources, you can differ them. Because I guess if you're looking at an event, you're trying to trace back and see, okay, who sent this, that you have the possibility to trace back, and you can differ between two different. I'm thinking like if you have two different instances of Tecton or something, one in a production environment and one in a staging environment, that you can actually differ between which one of them was the sent event. And at least in that level, it could be that you want to do, okay, which job was it? But yeah. So at least you can differ between, you can trace back and you can go figure out who sent it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I think that the source needs to be a little bit maybe more specific, and I think to that point, like the deployment, maybe even like the pod that generated the event in the case of Kubernetes, right? Or the host that it's just creating the event itself.
Okay.
How do we do that in a generic way? Pretty difficult to define right now.
Okay. I think maybe what I can do, I kind of try like gather these ideas we discussed today and put them in the spec, and without providing a specific format, we can give some suggestions and say, okay, if it's a Kubernetes entity, you can, give like the resource and use some certain syntax, like specify, I don't know, a cluster name and then the resource or platform name and so forth. But I don't think there is any standard that allows us, like in general, to identify a running application that produces an event. So it's going to be more useful maybe if we say, okay, just
like suggestions, right?
Suggestions.
Or examples. Yeah, or examples from different kind of like common configurations, common setups.
The downside, of course, is that there's not going to be a single common format, but I guess,
yeah,
that's something we can improve on, and maybe this time.
So a comment there, when it comes to source in IFO, this is actually not just a string, but it's actually an object. So if we want to, we could introduce an object instead of a string if it feels difficult to combine everything in just in a string.
Oh, that's an interesting idea. I guess we could have at CD events level, we could have an object, and when we send cloud events, we could serialize it in some format into the source field.
Or like an extension as well, right? Like we're gonna have a cloud event extension as well. Because if we have an object there, then then you can serialize it. Yeah, that's true. It's a good discussion there.
Yeah, but
because I guess then we
Sorry,
I continue. Okay. I mean, if we have objects, we could probably have a general discussion of, okay, if we have object describing something, how do we serialize these objects when going to cloud events? But that might be a cloud event specific discussion then. And we keep the seed events general then. I posted in the chat a link to an example of how it defines source in Eiffel.
Thanks.
Folks, sorry, but I need to drop to another meeting in 3 minutes. I wanted just to give quick heads up on like the proof of concepts. I think that Ishan is making really good progress on the Knative side. And we also defined that we submitted a proposal for CDCon, and in that proposal, we wanted to also create like a POC with Crossplane. Ishan is also working on that as well. So, you know, we will probably create an issue and we will create some flows. And then I had a meeting with another person from VMware that it's working in this project that it's called Cartographer. It's also like an open source project for supply chain stuff. And they were interested in like joining these discussions as well. So I will try to bring them to these meetings, and I will probably create an issue to integrate with Cartographer. So this project kind of like gets, get more visibility about what we are doing, and also to see if they can start implementing something, at least to show something.
Nice. When it comes to supply chain, I hope you're aware of that there is a supply chain security SIG nowadays.
Yes. Yeah. I will bring them to different groups, and then I will let them choose which ones they want to, work with. I know that they want to integrate closely with Knative now. Like they want to integrate the open source project Cartographer with Knative more closely, and that's why they might start kind of like here on CD events. But yeah, I'm just trying to make people aware of these initiatives, so they can start contributing.
Great. Thanks for the updates, Mauricio. Take care.
Take care.
See you next time. Okay, anything else? Going back, anything else did need to discuss on the source, or that you'd like to add?
Not anything from my part right now.
All right. Okay, moving on. So update the SDK, we discussed this already. Yeah, pull request. So there are two pull requests I wanted to bring up. One is the contributing one. So I saw your comment, Matthias. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, that was, I noticed that, for example, code of conduct, we didn't include that in the GitHub repository. But when I looked at this when contributing, I realized that those two can actually be, should probably be in the GitHub in order to just have them for GitHub automatically, including them. However, there is no governance MD that GitHub supports.
Yeah, exactly. But it does support code of conduct and the contributing.
Yeah.
So I was checking. Basically, if you specify the code of conduct, it shows up like here. Let me open one repo. And if you go to a new repo, it's basically showing you this code of conduct link here, and that's picked from the .github repo, which is great.
Yeah.
For the contributing one, but it's not showing in the list of files. For the contributing ones, so in Eiffel, you have it here in the README contribution guidelines.
Yeah, we've added it there. But if you, I think that it is if you open a pull request.
Yeah, if you go
Uh,
into issues or pull request, if
For
you're a
example,
first
if you
time,
click new, yeah, precisely there it is also.
and that's as a first
Uh,
time contributor, it shows that. And I guess if I create new issue, let's see. Yeah, it
Yeah.
shows it here the first time at least.
And it shows it first down.
It shows, okay, yeah, it shows us there. Okay. Yeah, so I think it's worth to having them there then. It's just I kind of dislike a bit the fact that they don't show up in the list of files and then in the repo. Because then, like, if you, for instance, have this kind of links, and then all need to become absolute links. Where is it? Like, yeah, the README link, or if you had like in the how to contribute, you could include a link to the development.md, but then that doesn't work because this file is not actually in the repos. So it's, I thought it used to work like that it kind of made it look like the file was also in the other repos, but I guess they dropped that.
Okay, yeah.
Anyways, yeah, I'm happy with moving them to GitHub. I was wondering if you could keep a copy around if it's not too much, but yeah, it doesn't have to be.
Yeah, I guess the risk with copies is that they diverge if you have multiple sources. So I don't know if you could link in, but that probably doesn't work either. But you link to another, like link in a file or something. So
No, I think the only way is probably what you did on the iPhone to have a link, explicit link, then in the README.
in the README, yeah.
Okay, yeah, I'll update then things like that then. GitHub repo and add link into. So because this PR included link updates to the readme.md, then what I'll do a separate PR for the .github repo, and then I'll update this PR to include the links to the contributing.md. And yeah, all right. Cool, thanks. Yeah, the other PR I wanted to mention is this one I started to work on, add syntax details for attributes in CD events. So if you look into it, it basically expands the attributes like this. So for each attributes, gives like a type, a description, specific constraints and examples. Yeah. And yeah, it also adds a new field, which is the version, where we would have the version of the spec and the optional subject. And the subject here is example of subject is an object. It's of type object. And then we would need to define how to serialize this into the cloud events binding into the cloud event subject. Probably, I mean, it's probably enough to adjust the ID there. But yeah, I wanted to keep it on CD event side like an object, because then you can have all the fields like we defined in the spec.
I haven't gotten the time to take a look at this. I'm gonna probably have to time tomorrow. One thing there I wondered about how much do we want to specify in details. For example, if you have, I mean, in certain cases, as with, for example, cloud events, the top layer doesn't support complex types. And so, for example, source, if we want to have a complex type there, we have the subject want a complex type. It could be, for example, the dates we want a complex type in and so on. So that's kind of like a general question of how much do we want in here, do we want to specify, and how much do we want to leave up to the actual like protocol implementation, like cloud events, to limit what we do, or do we want all of us, or maybe on the cloud, on the seed event side, do we want everything to be like objects, and then we serialize them down to something more limited, or do we want to limit ourselves up on this level? If you see where I'm coming in my discussion.
Yeah, the approach I was taking was to kind of try not to think too much about cloud events at this level, even though we borrow a lot of the definition from there, but you know, like using objects where we want to, and then deciding which information we want to present in the cloud events headers as part of the cloud events binding. And then when we make the decision, we can basically, the reasoning, I think it's, if you have cloud events routers or clients, what information do you want to present them so that they can take decisions based on the headers of the message without having to go into the body? Because in some formats, cloud events could be, the body could even be binary or encoded in some format. So you want to be able to take like decisions, quick decisions, like on filtering and routing or this kind of things, without having to look into the body. So what information from our CD events data we want to expose the cloud events headers, and maybe we need extensions.
Yeah, I will read through it and comment it. The other question there, but maybe it's because I only skimmed through it, about what's the subject thing. I guess that is, the subject is the same subject as the subject of the event, right?
Yes. Yes, that's the idea. That's the subject of the event. Yeah.
So then the question is optional.
Yeah, I put it as optional for now because during the discussion a couple of weeks ago, I think we came to a conclusion saying, okay, it could be optional for now. At least that was, I think, a no recommendation. I'm thinking we might want to put it mandatory, because I'm not sure there will be cases where we don't provide a subject. So yeah, maybe it probably makes sense to have it mandatory. You know, that's what you meant.
Yeah, well, I'm just trying to grasp it, because if people read the spec and they see a subject and then they have another thing that is subject and is optional, they might wonder, okay, why is this subject field optional when the vocabulary defines subjects? And so it's trying to be consistent to it. So hopefully, if I get time tomorrow, I'm also going to try, I think it was thinking of trying to, mainly for myself, start creating like full examples that we might be able to introduce in this in a spec-in kind of way. I saw you had an example of a JSON there of a subject.
Yeah.
But maybe having a full example of the whole event so you can get a better grip of what it is. Because for me, it was when I was reading it, I was also discussing with them and about reading it myself, it was a little bit untangible to grasp around. So maybe I'm going to try to see if I can create like generic examples that we can include here. But then the question is also with its, I guess the cloud events doesn't need to be serialized as JSON. Or does cloud events require JSON?
I think that's one format, but it's not the only format. I think it supports other kind of serializations depending on the binding that you're using. Yeah, formats. You see they have, they have JSON. They have now added, sorry, they have JSON format, and they added Avro format and protobuf now even. So it does not require JSON, but JSON is a good format to reason about events because you can visualize them. So it's yeah. But I think at the root, you can have things like these, or like in my PR, where you just have text and say, okay, these are the objects, these are the fields, and this is how they behave. And then we could even have different serialization documents if you want. If it makes sense, I was thinking about it. Sorry, I'm trying to, yeah, I'm not sure where my PR is now. We could have serialization document, or at least a document with JSON examples. But that could be decoupled from the cloud event binding even. So you could just include the CD event information in there.
Yeah, I was thinking of how generic should we have it. I mean, of course, JSON is one thing. I guess you could maybe you could draw UML diagrams. I don't know. If you want to stay out of the JSON part.
Oh, I see. Yeah, but I think JSON, at least to me, JSON seems like a good compromise to visualize things.
Then I can probably try to see if I can get us some JSON examples so we can put in there so it's easier to understand. So now I see time is running.
Yeah, we're out of time, I guess. So yeah, the only thing I wanted to mention, if you're interested, I started putting up this HackMD about the metrics with CD event POC. Yeah, if you have some example to read through or add comments, it's yeah, would be very welcome, of course.
Yeah, I can try to take a look at that also.
Cool. All right, I'll jump to next meeting, but great to see everyone today. And
good to see you too.
See you next time.
Bye-bye.
All right, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye.